Okay, part 5. This is actually taking longer than I thought. I guess that's a good thing. So, Wandering Time Lord, love the username by the way, asks, what area of scientific research, development, / whatever would you most like to see pursued right now? I'm all for space exploration. I think as a species we need new challenges to keep us from bickering amongst ourselves. What area is most interesting to you and why? Well, that's interesting. That's a really good question. I think honestly, to me it's obvious I'm biased, but to me the space exploration is fascinating. I'm not going to argue with you there, and I think as a species thing, that's probably the most important. But personally, I think the deep ocean. If you really look at the facts about the deep ocean, it's a cliche about we know more about the surface of the moon than we do the deep oceans. Well, that's true. It's the facts are just amazing. If you look at the Earth, look at the percentage of the Earth that's covered by water. Realize that, with the exception of around the continents, there's this thin strip of continental shelf. But after that, off the continents, worldwide around the oceans, the average depth is about 4 kilometers deep. So picture that in your head. Picture the Earth, all that water, most of it's about 4 kilometers deep. That's the average depths of the world oceans. And now understand that at that depth, we know a whole lot about the coast. We know a whole lot about that fringe around the continents. We don't know much about the rest of it. The other 98% of the world's oceans we don't know squat about. I don't know how current this is. I got this about probably 8 years ago when I was taking a graduate oceanography course, and somebody had taken the time to go through research. All of the research that has ever gone on in the deep oceans, and how much of the actual bottom deep ocean have we ever seen? Have we ever studied, not seen? Meaning, like, those grabs that go down and take a chunk of mud up and then somebody sorts through it looking for the bugs and such in it, or core samples or whatever. And he added it up to it came out to be 20 square feet. Okay? I want you to picture that. 20 square feet of the largest ecosystem on our planet has been studied. That's really, really pathetic. People always are like amazed. I'll get people will forward me these emails about some new study of the deep ocean. They found 1,000 new decapod crustaceans or whatever it is, and they're like, "Isn't that amazing?" And it's like, well, yes, it is amazing, but I'm hardly surprised. Almost everything we found while I was doing my deep ocean projects, which was all new species. New species in the deep ocean are a dime a dozen. It's the most diverse habitat on the planet. In terms of species diversity, it's beating the hell out of these rainforests, and basically terrestrial ecosystems are just these small potatoes looking at the rest of that. So that's why I want to see the world's ocean studied. We really don't know much about them. So yeah, and I guess that's why it's interesting to me and why. But there's the whole again space exploration. I'm fascinated by that. I'm fascinated by findings, the genetics. I'm looking at origins of life, chemistry issues. These kinds of things are all fascinating too. I'm interested in a lot of stuff. So, all right. Sorry, a little ramble. Let's see here. Stagism. It says, don't forget to do the tourist thing when you go through Canada. We have great beer. Actually, you do have great beer. I wish I could remember the name of it. It'll probably come to me after I finish this video. It's brewed in Whitehorse. It was a lager in Whitehorse, and it was one of the. I think I'd rate it in my top 10 list of some of the best beers I've ever had. It was excellent beer. I loved it. I wish I could remember what it was called though. It's really frustrating. It had some Yukon-y name, I think, if I recall correctly. But it was really, really good. And congrats on this. Now the question. Would you be able to recommend any really good books on evolution? Perhaps something that goes into greater depth and is more technical than Dawkins. Well, obviously, if you want to, go to the source, Origin is probably the best. If you want a technical book, it's not technical. It actually is interesting read. Is a genetical theory of natural selection. I have that right. By Ronald Fisher, Sir Ronald Fisher. It stands like if you have Origin of Species on your bookshelf, you should have that one next to it, because Origin of Species is hypothetical. Darwin said, well, here's this idea about how these things could happen, and here's some of the evidences I found for it. What do you think? Fisher's book was, here's the numbers, here's the proof, here's the facts behind it, here is the science of genetics confirming Darwin's predictions and showing that it's true. It's an amazing book, and it's surprisingly interesting to read. It's got a lot of math things in it, but it's surprisingly it's a great book. I highly recommend it. And it's a lot more technical than Dawkins. So I'm trying to think of anything else. If you want a great, I think it's not a book, but Sewell Wright, he was a contemporary of Fisher's. Sewell Wright, his papers. If you have any chance, if you want something that's really hard to read, and I'm saying you want it because it's hard to read. I'm telling you, it is extremely hard to read. He was a terrible writer. I have to say that. Meaning you have to read. I've gone through it, at least for me. Maybe I'm a little slow, but I have to read like every sentence of his several times to what the hell are you talking about, and reread it and think about it. It's really time consuming and hard to do, but it's brilliant stuff. It's just it's amazing. So, all right, I'll go to the next question here. How much time? About a little under 3 minutes. Killdozer 6006. You're moving to another part of Alaska? What good will that do? You'll still be in Alaska. Oh, Killdozer, you slay me. Yeah, I'm still in Alaska. This is actually a great place, believe it or not. We get a lot of bad rap. We've had some bad representation in the last year. But it's a great. It's got some things. I'd recommend certainly come up and visit. It's not living here is not for everybody, but it's a great place to visit. So.